Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a lot of stuff on the docket today. First, I want to thank you for 58,000 subscribers. Couldn't have been done without you. Second on the docket, Epstein. His life is never going to be the same again. Next up on the docket, let's talk R. Kelly. It's always about the money. And when we start talking about all these sexual perverts and privilege that they've received, it brings us right to Harvey Weinstein. Me too. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and we have a busy docket today. It is jam-packed because we were traveling all over the state of Colorado and down to the Las Cruces city limits right next to the United States-Mexican border for a sentencing in a federal racketeering case. But I am back to bring you your Crime Talk updates. The docket's so thick today, I'm definitely glad I have my Crime Talk mug so as not to get too parched while I'm talking to y'all. So the first thing on the docket was a big thank you. We're at 58,000 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. If you like the content that we put out, give it that thumbs up and hit that notification bell so that you receive notice of when we put out new videos or go live. We do thank you. It couldn't be possible without you. Next thing on the docket, Jeffrey Epstein. For those of you who haven't heard of Jeffrey Epstein, he is a finance guy, and I use that in air quotes because no one's really sure exactly how he was making his money, but he's wealthy. And back in 2002, he pled guilty to some prostitution charges. It required him to register as a sex offender. But everybody kind of knew the case was involving underage children, but he got a pretty good sweetheart deal. Now, whether that had to do with the fact that truly the United States attorney at the time didn't think he could prove his case, or whether he received favoritism because of Mr. Epstein's political and social connections, we may never know for sure. The reality of it is that's done. Mr. Epstein got roughly a 2-year, a little less than that, county jail sentence where he was allowed work release. He could go to his office 6 days a week. He got a smoking deal. And then when he gets out and has his little celebration party, you have celebrities like Katie Couric showing up along with other political connected people and famous people. Fast forward to 2019. Mr. Epstein gets charged by the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York for child exploitation charges, going back to the same time period, alleging that Mr. Epstein was engaging in unlawful sexual contact with underage girls in Miami, in New York, in his residence in New Mexico, as well as his private island in the Caribbean. So when Mr. Epstein's $77 million townhouse was raided, they apparently found quite a treasure trove, for Mr. Epstein that is, of underage girls neatly categorized and indexed. Classic sign of someone who is in fact into child pornography is oftentimes they have these detailed inventory of their collection, so to speak. So that doesn't surprise me based upon what we've heard from Mr. Epstein. Now, Mr. Epstein has a lot of money. He's hired some very good and expensive lawyers, and they tried to get Mr. Epstein out on bond, and they failed. They're appealing that to a higher court to see if they can have Mr. Epstein released. Don't think that's going to happen. The two major things that any judge is going to look at when they grant bond, other than the charge itself, is are you a flight risk and are you a danger to the community? What judge is going to let Mr. Epstein, who has the resources to disappear, be that guy, that judge, and let him go away? If he is ultimately found not guilty at trial, obviously Mr. Epstein is given the presumption of innocence. Let the chips fall where they may, but no judge wants to be that guy that lets that guy get away and not face trial and face potential justice in this particular case. So poor Mr. Epstein was found yesterday morning, apparently in the fetal position in his cell, with some marks around his neck and semi-conscious. Several theories floating around out there. One is that Mr. Epstein tried to commit suicide. Second is that he faked being injured or attacked so that he could be transferred to little nicer facilities at the hospital. And third, Mr. Epstein apparently had a cellmate or someone who had access to his cell. The inmate who is in the cell, apparently with Mr. Epstein, is Nicholas Tartaglione. I probably mispronounced that. Mr. Tartaglione is a former police officer. He's 49 years old, and he's charged with killing drug dealers and burying them in his front yard. This man is going to prison, and I know we've talked about this before, but people accuse, there is a hierarchy in the jail system, and there's a hierarchy in the prison system. Child molesters are at the bottom of that rung. They are the lowest of the low, scum of the earth. Only thing above them are people accused and or convicted of rape. They have a very tough time in custody. They literally will be beat upon for the fun of it. Mr. Tartaglione is his roommate. My guess is, thinks he's probably going to prison for the better part of his life, and if he could harm Mr. Epstein, then he can maybe take some benefit of that. And Mr. Tartaglione apparently had no idea how Mr. Epstein wound up with the bruises or scars on his neck. I've seen this before as well. I've seen cases where two inmates were in a cell. One inmate asked the other to stop snoring and that he should leave the cell or he was going to have to check out, go into solitary confinement. He refused to do so. When they locked the doors at night, when they woke up in the morning, only one person woke up. That's the way it is in prison. People will kill you for the slightest reason. They don't care, okay? That's the way it is. A lot of people, they're serving life sentence. What are you going to do? Give them another life sentence? Ooh, it doesn't matter. They're probably not going to go the death penalty unless the inmate kills a police officer or correctional facility personnel. It's just not going to happen, okay? So I'm going to bet, I could be wrong, but my humble opinion is that the inmate in the cell, Mr. Tartaglione, may have hurt the good Mr. Epstein. We will see. Now, Mr. Epstein has some big problems. This island down in the Bahamas where all this hedonistic sexual exploitation of girls was taking place apparently has a room. It's like a temple. It's got hidden doors. They've recently found hidden doors. There's been some drone footage. There's also been some security cameras to show people that are in that little room, and it's just weird and creepy. Mr. Epstein, he probably is going to hope that someone takes him out for his sake. Hopefully, for his sake, it'll be painless, but my guess is someone's going to make it very painful for him. Now, certainly, we're not advocating for that, but I'm telling you, sexual offenders, particularly that on children, are the lowest of the low in the prison system. So next on the docket, R. Kelly. It's always about the money. I did a video. It's called the Defense Attorney's 12 Undeniable Truths. And I can't remember exactly what number it is, but maybe we could put a link to that video below. And it says it's always about the money, okay? Just about everything in life is about the money. And when they say it's not about the money, it's always about the money then. You know for certain. And in R. Kelly's case, he has paid witnesses to disappear, not to cooperate, to make cases go away. And it is alleged that there are some videos out there of R. Kelly engaging in inappropriate, unlawful, alleged sexual misconduct with young girls. He has apparently paid, according to some sources, close to $2 million to hush this witness up. Now, since the money has dried up, that victim is now willing to talk to the FBI. My guess is probably R. Kelly has breached his agreement to continue to pay this young lady and her family. For those of you who don't recall, R. Kelly has had legal issues, civil, criminally, and he's always pretty much got walked away unscathed. But now in Chicago, when he was facing state charges, he got hit with federal charges. And once again, the federal system has kept Mr. Kelly in custody. In the state court system, and I don't want to get too much on a tangent here, but in the state court system, just about everybody gets a bond, assuming you are not charged with murder, and then they can hold you no bond. But everybody else gets a bond. In today's world, with all the criminal justice reform, they give personal recognizance bonds, which are bonds where you simply just promise to appear and you go away, okay? The federal system is not like that. The magistrate judges that hear the cases, hold the detention hearings, take their responsibilities very seriously, and just given the consequences that you're facing in the federal system, most people are potential flight risks, so they remain in custody. And in federal drug cases, you are presumed, in most cases, to be there's a rebuttable presumption that the person is a danger to the community and a flight risk. So it's presumed that they're going to leave and they should be held without bond. Happens all the time. R. Kelly, I don't think he will ever get to wear a fancy attire that he's ever worn, just like Mr. Epstein after his trial is done. But we'll see. He's given the presumption of innocence. We'll see how things shake out. An interesting issue comes up when we talk about the Epsteins, the R. Kellys, Lori Loughlin, where it really makes you wonder if the elite, the wealthiest, have a different set of rules that everybody plays by. And is it some sort of narcissistic thing that they have, or is it because everybody has told them they're so great that they think that they can do whatever the hell they want, and then when they ultimately get caught, they act surprised and shocked and said, everything, I just don't understand, okay? And whether it's Lori Loughlin, the Epsteins of the world, Harvey Weinstein, who's facing not only civil suits all over the place, but criminal charges in New York. Just a couple of weeks ago, he got rid of his attorney, trying to bring in a new firm, or trying to bring in a new set of attorneys to represent him. Whether it's a delay tactic or he has irreconcilable differences with his attorney, it certainly doesn't play well with the court. Because either A, it's games, or two, he has irreconcilable differences because he doesn't like what his attorneys are telling him. And so he's going to hire people that'll tell him what he wants to hear. My guess is the district attorney is not making any kind of offer for Mr. Weinstein other than going to prison. So he is inclined to fight these cases to the bitter end. The Harvey Weinstein case brings us to even a bigger subject. We've never talked about it here on Crime Talk, but hey, we've had a lot of stuff on our mind. We've been traveling. We had a lot of time to think about things. And that's the whole Me Too movement that really got going because of the Harvey Weinstein case, because people got tired of it. They got tired of these people getting away with things that they know is wrongful, to taking advantage of their position as an employer, trying to use their position to get somebody ahead if you engage in sexual relations with Mr. Weinstein. And here's the thing, all right? I don't believe that the Me Too movement is about somebody asking another person out for a date, okay? The Me Too movement is talking about the pig, okay? Everybody knows who that pig is. He's the guy that talks inappropriately about women. He's telling about their sexual exploits. He's a pig and everybody knows it. He's the guy that when everybody shows up says, don't get, warn the interns, don't get on the elevator with that guy. Well, first of all, that guy needs to go away. And actually here in Colorado, we had a state legislator who is a female that was sexually assaulting or sexually harassing other females, and she has since resigned. So if you're that girl or that guy, you need to go. If you're the boss trying to have intimate relations with the employees, you need to go. It doesn't work that way, okay? Advised clients, advised business owners. Listen, if you find the love of your life, that's great. You should marry her if you found her at the office or him at the office. But guess what? One of you should probably leave. And I know people say there's exceptions to all those rules, but it just creates issues, okay? Don't do it. If you're in a position of authority that's higher than the person you're dating, there's going to be problems at work, all right? The next thing about Me Too, how many people has this taken down, okay? Probably not enough. That's what it amounts to. But we here at Crime Talk have done a little research, and we've heard about the Matt Lauers, the Bill O'Reilly. There's this miniseries now on, I think, Showtime, where it talks about the head of Fox and what a pig he was, Roger Ailes, who has since passed away. But there were repeated allegations. And let's face it, there's rumors, people. And yes, people should not be convicted or required to be terminated based upon rumors. But if there are enough people saying it that have never met its same situation over and over again, it's more than likely going to be true. We're not talking about proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's more of a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. So you've had the business leaders, TV personalities. Why? Because all these people think that they're so great and that they can get away with anything. Also, going back to the 12 undeniable truths, there's two types of people in the world, those that are humble and those that are about to be. You heard it from Scott Reisch. I've seen it too many times over and over again. Everybody who thinks that they are too great can get away with everything. Everybody needs to pander to them and tell them they're fabulous. Anything that rises super fast like that usually comes down twice as fast. But then the next question is, what about the politicians? Well, the Crime Talk staff has done our homework today. So we looked at politicians. And obviously, we're not going to go into the numerous allegations of the president. People can decide on that on their own. We also have the allegations of former vice president. I think they call him Creepy Joe, and he likes to touch people, grab people. A little weird, let's face it. Senator Al Franken resigned based upon allegations that were basically substantiated. One was there's a photo of him grabbing a sleeping woman's breast on a flight on a USO trip. And since the Me Too movement has taken place, there have been 10 congressional members in the House of Representatives who have resigned. And for those keeping score at home, it's pretty evenly split. It's been 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats. Then, if you look at the states, since the Me Too movement has really taken stride, there have been 61 elected state representatives whom have resigned because of allegations, and some of them are really good, where they denied any sexual contact whatsoever, and then bam, they have a child in DNA, and suddenly they said, oh, I guess I'm going to resign. Some of these stories are absolutely crazy, but these are people that think that they're entitled. They think they're above the law, which for public servants who are supposed to be writing the laws need to be doing it better and cleaner than everybody else. And if they can't, they should resign on their own and get the hell out of there. And if they can't keep their hands to themselves and act like proper ladies and gentlemen, then they need to get the hell out of there as well. Now, in Indiana, the Attorney General refuses to resign, even though there are credible allegations after an investigation that he inappropriately conducted himself and it amounted to sexual harassment. He needs to go. In Tennessee, the Speaker of the House resigned, and I guess they're picking a new one because his text messages came out of all his sexual exploits to his chief of staff, who was also bragging about doing cocaine in the Capitol. Where in the hell do they find these people? And what arrogance is it that they think that they can get away with that? They need to go. People need to hold their elected officials to a higher standard. And that the Attorney General in Indiana is Attorney General Curtis Hill. He was accused by multiple women of inappropriate sexual behavior in March of 2018. 4 women have accused him of groping them during a party at a bar on the last night of the Indiana General Assembly session. And if anyone's ever been around, it's a big deal when the legislature ends, all the staff, the parties get together, they have joint parties, they have parties, and it's a party. Everybody gets drunk. And so many of these allegations come from the end of the legislative session. Once again, you got a bunch of grown men who are acting like they're a bunch of 14-year-old boys away for the weekend, away from mom and dad. And of the 4 women accusing Attorney General Curtis, 1 is a state representative and 2 were legislative staffers saying that he was inappropriate. And they've basically been substantiated, but he refuses to go. California, not surprisingly, obviously is a much larger state, has the most state representatives that have had to resign. And in that particular situation, there have been 6 Democrats and 1 Republican, because I didn't know if there were any Republicans left in California. In New York, 7 Democrats resigned, 2 Republicans since the Me Too movement has taken place. So many more that we could probably talk about from Oregon that have harassed people, that have drinking problems, but we're not going to get into that. But then we have one particular case we can definitely talk about, and that was a state senator, Jeff Cruz, a Republican. And once again, everybody knew that the good senator had a, quote, chronic problem of behaving himself. And that's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody knows who's doing it. Everybody knows who the troublemakers are and who are acting inappropriately. And if the people in charge or the other people allow this conduct to take place, then they are just as guilty as the people that are doing it. It's called leadership. Stepping in to do what's right, even in the face of knowing that it's going to be difficult. And so many politicians won't do it. And so many politicians completely lack ethical and moral compass to do the right things. They're there doing the people's work, and yet they act like they can do whatever they want. Wrong. Hey, we're all hypocrites. It's just a matter of degree. But guess what? If you're a public official, you're held to a higher standard. Bottom line, I can tell you when I was in the military, what an enlisted person would get in trouble for would be a simple office hours. An officer did it, his career was ruined. That's the way it was. You were in charge, you were held to a higher standard. And these public officials that can't live up to that standard need to go.